Hello, everybody, and welcome to REI Systems Modern Analytics Approach, How to Unlearn and Advance webinar. My name is Ashley Keaton, and I'll be kicking it off for us today. We're super excited to have you guys joining us this afternoon. Just so you are aware, this is a two-part webinar series. We'll actually have part two focusing on analyzing and visualizing data taking place on September 9th. So be on the lookout. We'll be emailing you guys that invitation shortly. This webinar is being brought to you today by REI Systems. For those of you who do not know who we are, we're a privately owned 31-year-old IT modernization company in the DC metro area. We focus on providing application modernization, data analytics, grants management, small business innovation research programs, and advisory services to, I lost my place, advisory services to agencies and organizations across government operations. Just a couple quick housekeeping notes for you guys today before we get started. We will be answering all questions at the end of the webinar. If you have a question, please feel free to submit it using the question box, which you should see on your menu option underneath the audio button. If we run out of time, we'll be sure to answer all questions via email. We will be posting contact information on the last slide. So if you have any questions or would like any follow-up after the webinar, please feel free to send us an email. For those of you wondering, yes, we will be recording this webinar. And we'll be posting the slides and the video recording online. So once we have that posted, we'll be sure to send you guys an email letting you know when it's available. We have a great panel speaker for you guys today. I would like to introduce Divya Santamurthy, who's our senior data analyst. Divya is a data enthusiast with over 7 years of professional experience analyzing data, designing and building solutions to uncover unique actionable insights. As a certified Tableau developer, her data visualization works were presented at national conferences across the United States. She also holds a master's degree in computer science from the University of Houston. I'd also like to introduce Ankit Mittal. He's our director of data analytics. Ankit is a technology-focused leader with 12+ years of experience in data engineering, data analytics, and data science initiatives in federal government. Ankit leads REI's data analytics practice, responsible for customer success, people development, and technical excellence across all data initiatives. He holds a master's degree in information systems from the George Mason University. So without any further ado, I will turn it over to you, Ankit.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for the nice words and organizing the webinar. And big thanks to all our participants for joining us today. Divya and I will ensure not to bore you down with a lot of technical details. To conduct our webinar, we actually thought of comparing it to something that we like, which is in this case cooking, or maybe a journey to our food. Everyone has their own way of cooking, like with the recipes, the custom recipes, or secret ingredients, right? That's why today the REI team presents the modern data analytics recipe, which is specific to REI with 16 different key ingredients, which are bucketed across 4 sections, that is learn, store, analyze, and visualize. There are certain ingredients in this recipe which are definitely new, along with the other which you have heard of, and they might have just evolved over a period of time or maybe some decades. For example, a few decades back, most of the dishes definitely had white rice within it, but then it evolved into brown rice. And nowadays we even hear, or people like more on the healthier options as cauliflower rice. Something similar we'll of course cover in our webinar today. We genuinely hope you like or you find our recipe useful and be able to utilize it at your home, especially during this quarantine period of 2020 and maybe a little bit 2021 as well. Moving further. I guess our recipe is even more interesting, or it is unique in nature, because we're going to cover this into 2 different parts, 2 different sessions altogether. Today we'll cover the initial prep work, which is the learn and store, and later on, just a few weeks from now, we'll cover the last 2 sections, which is analyze and visualize. Stay tuned with us for the slide where we share the date of our webinar, which is towards the end today. With that, I'll give off to Divya to start with our first ingredient details.
Thanks, Ankit. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So let's talk about the first bucket, learn, and it's all about customer engagement. So the renowned fashion designer and businesswoman Laura Ashley once quoted that we don't need to push our ideas onto our customers. We simply have to deliver what they want. Don't you think it applies to almost all industries? Well, there's a catch in it. It's not as simple as going to your customers and saying, hey, what you want, we want to deliver it for you. Because most of the times your customers don't really know what they want. All they know is there could be a data solution that makes their lives easier. So it's up to us on how do we find what they want, and it comes down to reading between the lines to understand what we want to deliver. So obviously, the first thing is to understand the mission and vision of the agency. It doesn't stop there. You need to focus on the people, as in your end users. You need to understand them from their role perspective, what they do, what's their expertise, are they data savvy, are they tech savvy? Ask all these questions. Then research on their data. Firstly, try and understand where the data source is, as in how is the data generated, how is it stored, and if the organization is making data-driven decisions. Doing this assessment early on in the project would help you provide fructifying results, and this will reward you with astounding results in the later process of the project. Now, let's talk this through using an example. Think about a task where you have to deliver a data dashboard. Again, you can simply go to your customer and say, hey, what are the data points you want to see on your dashboard, right? So start by researching, as in understand the mission and vision, look if there is any publicly available data. And it doesn't really have to be in the data domain. Even anything with regards to, like the functional aspects around resources should really help. Then meet with your clients. Ask them to invite individuals who will be your potential end users, and then ease them into discussions, maybe with an icebreaker exercise. And then have your end users voice their opinions while you conduct workshops. Give them a very high level understanding of what the problem statement is, as in the scope of the project, in this case, a data dashboard. And if your potential end users haven't seen a data dashboard, start with easy discussions like, hey, do you know about a car dashboard? Because these are the examples that they interact with on a daily basis, right? So give an example of a car dashboard or a fitness tracker where they'll be able to find insights about their workout. Now, once after you ease into these discussions, slowly maneuver the talk towards data dashboard. Have them identify data points that are indispensable on the dashboard, the ones that are good to have, and the ones that are not really useful. Well, in essence, what I'm trying to convey is in the very first step, try to understand your customers so that you can deliver a tailored solution which is in line with their mission and vision. Ankit, can you enlighten us with regards to data strategy?
Sure, thanks, Divya. So in this case, the second ingredient we'll cover with a different, we'll begin it with differently. We have a poll question for everyone, and I really request all our participants to respond. Let's launch the poll question, Divya. It's a pretty simple question. How many federal agencies develop data strategy first and then plan their investments or project afterwards? Please choose based on your experience or even perception among these three. We have maybe 15 more seconds. Maybe last 5 seconds. Please, it's really not gonna take more than, I would say more than a few 10 neurons and maybe less than 5 muscles of your body. Please click on either one of those options. All right. So I think we have the results, which says clearly, I think we all have read the same, looks like the Gartner survey. So yes, the Gartner survey does show the less than 25% of the cases have the data strategy first, and then their investments or projects actually follow those projects. What it means that most of the agencies do have a data strategy, however, their investments or future projects are not aligned to them. Basically, they just start cooking before they finalize the recipe itself. So in our data strategy, it's a cohesive version across 6 different components. And to me, each of the component has its own significance. So let's start from the data that we know. We all try to, of course, capture it and try to keep it as longest time for provisioning it to the people. But to me, the structure of provisioning, what kind of data management practices are applied, how the standards are set up, all are pretty important when we're talking about the data component of it, and all have to be figured out during our strategy. Quality aspect is something which is, I would say, utmost important, because that is what drives the trust of our users, and in turn the adoption of your system. The tools, the right tools necessary for storage, management, and visualization. And when we do these things right, these enable effective collaboration and adoption across the agency. Moving on, the governance aspects of applying common policies across different programs, across different offices within an agency is important. Nowadays, even aligning with the federal data strategy is super important. So having governance principles from day one is as important as data or quality of it. Focused OCM, that's the organizational change management, the people aspect of things. Having a focused training plans, roadshows, demonstrations, communication of the change itself is so important, as people don't feel that, hey, something major gonna change in their day-to-day work, and they are able to learn through it. And of course, the topic of data literacy is something which we will cover as well in the next few minutes. Analytics, it's mainly basically covering the art of the data storytelling, the art of choosing the right visualization. It's not about always complex and beautiful charts. If you can convey the story in the same simple tabular and bar charts, even they should do it as well. So finally, all these dimensions together help create a mindset shift and influence the data culture of the agency. Moving ahead, what we have done is we have mapped our data strategy with federal data strategy as well. And as you all know, Federal Data Strategy 2020 has the agency level action plans, which are 6 action plans. And we were able to easily map just the 3 components of our data strategy with the Federal Data Strategy action plan, that is data, governance, and OCM aspect of things. Usually across agencies, when they are beginning this journey of data modernization, the key question is there about how do we begin? What is the starting point? So RA's recommendation in that point, that stage has always been to initiate with a current state self-assessment, which is through a maturity model. The model that worked well for us is a federal data maturity model, just created by GSA, the government itself, themselves. It has different factors on the rows, like the data culture, data management, data personnel, and so on and so forth. And from the left to right, it shows the progression of the analytical capability, right? From the basic summary reports to descriptive analytics, diagnostic, predictive, and all the way to prescriptive. I'm sure we all have heard these terms, but just to cover, basic reports is simply about talking about what's going on, the status of certain things as of today. Descriptive analytics is basically an ability where the users or agencies are able to describe or historically identify what happened in the past. Diagnostic analytics, moving further on the right hand side, is more about how more in the real time fashion you are able to identify what is going on, or why that's happening, right? As you can identify the chain of changes of it. Then moving further, applying more machine learning algorithms, even AI or deep learning aspect of things, get us to predictive analytics, where we are able to predict the future and make an attempt of it. And then all the way to the prescriptive, where you are able to actually identify the parameters or identify the factors that could lead to a certain larger change across the agencies in future time. That's called prescriptive. So when you perform such detailed self-assessment, agencies are able to better influence their roadmap of implementing these things across the series of projects. And that's what we mentioned in the start of the survey question, that, okay, how many of our agencies do we really see strategies actually getting aligned? With that, I would say, Divya, would you cover the next ingredient for us?
Sure, thanks, Ankit. So before I delve into coaching and training, how about we take a poll? Now, I'll let you guys go through this question here. Look at the image, go through the question, pick an option. I'll give you like 10 seconds, after which I'll launch a poll and you'll be able to select your answer over there. Okay, launching the poll. We only have 35% who voted. So let me give maybe 10 more seconds. All right, I'm going to close the poll, share the result. And from what I see, 60% said option A, which is 60% chance of rain between 2 mm and 10 mm is the right answer, but it's not, you guys. The correct answer is option B. So the reason why I had to go through this exercise is to say that it's not enough if you just know how to read an image or a visualization. You need to have context around it, as in around the numbers, to make intelligent decisions. So gone are the days where you would walk into a room and say, I have a hunch that a certain way is the right way for a successful solution. Folks are going to turn back to you now these days and say if your plan can be backed up by numbers. Data is the key to future-proof business, and that's where data literacy comes to limelight. Data literacy is the ability to read, work, and analyze and argue with and about data. It empowers all the employees of an organization to ask the right questions and make intelligent decisions. It's also a prerequisite for an insight-driven organization. So here's the survey results from Forrester, where 25% of the users said there is a high need to improve data insights, whereas 60% still say it's a moderate priority. And only 9% of the companies do not find turning this goal into a reality, whereas 41% find it extremely challenging. Now, there could be many different reasons, right? It could be lack of data, lack of right resources, but one reason that's frequently ignored is data literacy. Until your organization has data literacy, all your data discussions will be a monologue. Now, the need of the hour is how do you convert into a dialogue? So the first obvious question is, where do you start? Make data a business issue. Data literacy is for everyone, and everyone has equal part to play. Talk to your leadership teams, have them understand, believe, and promote data literacy. Assess your current state and identify gaps. Another thing you need to do is set up a data literacy program. Now, don't open it for everyone all at once. Rather, identify a small group, group them based on their roles, and provide role-based trainings. Provide them access to data. It can be as simple as creating a dashboard or providing them access to limited database objects, because it's going to help them play with and understand data at a closer level. Now, what if you're on the other end of the spectrum? When I say other end, if you're a data analyst or a visualization developer, you guys need the least training, but it doesn't mean that, it means that you need to start by understanding your data sources. This is going to help you work with confidence. Also, probe your clientele and your peers to work on data products on their own, as in create self-service solutions. Also, whenever you create a visualization, start by asking if you're doing the right thing, because most of the customers still find going through numbers and graphs overwhelming. So just because you have a humongous data set, you spend maybe days and months analyzing it, every item that came to you as a revelation need to make it to the dashboard. you need to identify a data story, as in, here's the problem and here's the solution. We'll talk about data storytelling in our next webinar, but in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is, data literacy, it's not a nice to have. It must become part of your organization's DNA. It's the language of the new era, and we all need to be fluent in it. Ankit, on to you.
Thanks, Divya. Data lake. The data lake is an example of a new ingredient in our recipe. This is where the data management paradigms keep changing, right? Because the data lake technology was created because of ever-growing need of storing the data and managing the data through organizations. And the data management guidelines also differ from each analytics level where the organization is. Like for basic reporting, you need simple, structured. Even for descriptive analytics, structured or OLTP systems or even basic data mart data warehouse systems are enough. Whereas for us to implement diagnostic analytics, we really need powerful OLAP systems or even massive parallel processing and NoSQL ways of managing the data. That way we can quickly aggregate in more of or less real-time fashion and show the insights to the users. But once a user move from those use cases to true advanced analytics use cases, like in the form of sentiment analyses or general natural language processing, where we process large corpus of text to decipher insights or the patterns from it, or even advanced form of AI, the deep learning kind of image classification and other, which really require scalable data platforms in the cloud. Such requirements created the need of data lake concept, which indeed has better capabilities than OLAP or OLTP forms. Definitely provides faster processing speed along with the scalable nature of the cloud and far cheaper form of storing the data. And in comparison to cloud data warehouse service, it is definitely far cheaper. Although it's not everything is not great about these as well. Right? Because you would like to really, you might have heard that, hey, data lake things are now getting converted certain things into data swarms. If they're really not governed well, it could happen. And the reasons that lead to it is the basic inherent nature of data lakes, which do not provide transaction level support, and also do not enforce quality and schemas kind of requirements which exist in the other transitional OLTP and OLAP formats. So from this, I would say the relatively newer data lake kind of evolves into the concept of data lakehouse, another new ingredient. I would say it's more of the evolved version within our recipe. This is a new paradigm where we include the key features of the data warehouse into the fundamental bare bone structure of the data lake. Example, the transaction support or schema enforcements are applied or are taken from the data warehousing concepts and applied on the data lake, where keeping storage is versus decoupled from the compute, and also it provides more of a streaming support as well. So these 3 or 4 areas really change the concept and converts into more of a lake house. So if you look at in this graphic, the lake in what we are trying to depict, look at it more as 3 zones within it, which are not depicted out there. Ideally from the left to right, the zone from raw zone to maybe staging and then final. And the idea is all the 3 zones are used for consumption. It just depends for different purposes. If there are some business focused data analysts or business users, they may be focusing more on the zone 3, which is final, as they really don't have to process or clean the data altogether, because all the data curation is applied when the data is moving from zone 1, 2, and 3. So Lakehouse indeed support all the forms of analytics, right from the BI, true BI, to the deep and AI use cases as well. Lakehouse also supports less data movements and of course less copies, because if the data of the organization is kept in this format, all the aspects of use cases of analytics can be dealt from the same place. And of course, it results into reduced administrative burden as well, where if you have several different services, be it even on cloud or on-prem, it requires more administration burden if you have the differently. Whereas in case of data lakehouse, you can put the data in one place, do the structure within it, and utilize from the same place. So one of the key ingredients for us to look at. Moving ahead, I think I would give to Divya for converting our next ingredient, which is data ops.
Sure. Thanks, Ankit. Many of us are trying to be data-driven, while most of us are trying to be data-centric. But one thing that's common amongst all of us is wanting to deliver faster and with higher quality. And that's where data ops comes into play. Data ops is the practice of enhancing communication, integration, and automation between data teams and data consumers to deliver faster, better, and cheaper. Simply put, we are trying to reduce the distance between definition of the requirements to delivery of solution. What this means is increasing the business value of data and also customer satisfaction. For folks who are aware of DevOps, data ops has taken its inspiration from DevOps, but don't treat it as DevOps for data. Because along with DevOps, data ops incorporates agile and lean manufacturing methodologies. Think about it as agile regulates analytic development. DevOps would worry about optimizing code, building and delivering solutions, and lean manufacturing takes care of orchestrating and monitoring data pipelines. And data ops is as much about managing people as it is about tools and technologies. So the next question is, how do you get on board? Now, here are the 7 steps that will help you get on board with data ops, starting with applying data and logic tests. Revisit your data pipelines. See if you can establish tests at each and every stage of it. It can be as simple as, establishing a condition saying a table needs to have X number of columns. It's a simple test. But over the years, it's going to grow and it will help you catch errors before you put your product in front of the customers. Also, as a data team member, if you establish a test, make a change, run your test, and when you see pass, it's going to increase your confidence for releasing the product. Also, consider having a version control system, something like Git. This is going to help you revise your code and manage changes. Also, if the catastrophic what if the unexpected happens, you can always use your version control system to double in as a recovery system. Thirdly, branch and merge. This is going to be super productive for your data team because the team members don't have to wait on each other in order to work on the same file. And also, it's going to help with conducting experiments. You can branch, conduct an experiment. If something doesn't work out, you can discard the changes and start afresh. The fourth item here is multiple environments. As a data team member, if you're a data scientist, you have a tool of your choice. If you're a visualization developer, you have a tool of choice. But something that's inevitable for all the parties is having access to data. But it's super unrealistic to have everyone on the production database, right? So what you need to do and what you should do is provide their own environment. This is going to help them with their activities. Then think about reusing and containerizing. Reuse as in chop down your data pipeline into smaller components, and it's going to help with reusability. And containerizing a complex operation that talks to multiple mediums would help your data team members by not confusing folks who are strongest at a certain aspect. Think about parameterizing your processes, as in if you bake in options that support scalability, you'll have a flexible data analytic pipeline. Now, all these 6 steps would help your data team members get closer to working with confidence, but the ultimatum is establishing a value innovation pipeline. Now, this pipeline is going to help your team members not to second guess their changes and also not to worry about the catastrophic what ifs. Think about it as a parallel workflow where the value pipeline is focusing on the quality of the data, while the innovation pipeline is looking to bring in new ideas that will help uncover actionable insights. The result is a team that works with confidence. And the obvious question is, where do I start? So as always, start small. Whether you're new to the concept of data ops or if you have bits and pieces of it incorporated already, take baby steps. Just maybe one project at a time, one step at a time, like one of the 7 steps that I just spoke about. Secondly, educate your team. Have an honest discussion. Talk to them about the pros and cons of data ops, and be ready to answer their resistance. Also provide them with resources so that they can take on the change with a smile. If you're not in the agile space yet, consider hopping on it as soon as possible. Smash the data silos. Focus on establishing collaboration between your different data teams so that they can work in parallel when they're developing products. Also, make sure you're having the team members work on what they're best at, as in you cannot have a data scientist work on making changes to a data pipeline just because they're available. It's the job of a data engineer, right? And next, identify options to automate. And one thing that you need to accept is this is not a setup once and dust your hands off kind of an approach. You need to continuously improve it. Ankit, on to you.
Sure, thanks. Data integration. I would say this is something which definitely exists since the day one data exists. It is more of an example of an evolved ingredient in our recipe. So every day, there are massive amounts of new data being created, unlike ever before. This data is moving more fluidly in many directions. Example, the data which is of course getting created on on-prem systems is nowadays moving to cloud. There are definitely several cloud services where the data moves from one service to another, or even multiple cloud providers. And in certain cases, don't ask me why, data which is generated in cloud may also move towards on-prem to conduct certain operations which, because of security or other reasons, could not be done over there. And people are, of course, accessing the data from all over the different places as well. That's why the old paradigm or the old recipe of or approach of data integration has become unsuitable in this new data landscape. It is the time, again, a paradigm shift to occur in the integration. So we always talked about in the OLTP world or even in OLAP world of having star schemas or snowflake schemas where the tight integrations have occurred, as it can reduce any kind of data cleaning requirements or data joining requirements to a lowest level. However, now in the modern approaches, modern data architectures, loose integration supports the heterogeneous data altogether. And when I say heterogeneous, I really mean structured, unstructured, logs, semi-structured, all kinds of things together. Now the modern architectures also supports schema-less read or on-demand data preparation, right? Which is even supported by several new tools like Alteryx, Trifacta, and others, which make things data wrangling more from the data engineers to more of a data analyst or even business users area of play, right? That has, of course, allowed us to move from tight integrations to loosely integrated data lakes or the lake house easily. There are other drivers of this modern approach, which is like an example which is listed out here, support both technical and business users. It's no longer enough for just having a report or a dashboard available for our business users. The users should be able to play with the data. At least certain section community within the users would like to really work with it. So that's why if you really tightly integrate, you'll never be able to predict all the questions. That's why keeping the data more loosely integrated and allow people with these tool sets to play supports our objective overall and also government's objective. There are several other benefits that comes along with these new tools available in the cloud market. They provide services, they provide API support out of the box as well. I think we already covered hybrid architectures and the growing business need drivers. With that, I would say we cover most of the portions of till the 8 ingredients today. And with this, I think we'll move to the Q&A part of it. I'll really request all of our members to ask their questions if you had any. And Ashley, if you can help us out in coordinating the Q&A, that will be helpful.
For sure, more than happy to. We actually have had two questions come in. I'll go ahead and start with one of the first ones. So the question was, why data literacy program is required even when data storytelling is followed across all projects?
Okay. Divya, do you want to take it? Yeah.
Sorry, I was fiddling with my unmute button. Sure, I can answer that. Now, think about, now when you say data storytelling, again, you're taking a subset of individuals, the ones who are strongest with assessing the data, as in, like they who are able to collect it, analyze it, create stories out of it, as in it's just the data team, right? But how about the ones to whom you're showcasing it? They are at a disadvantage. You're always, as I said, it's always a monologue. You're going to stand in front of your audience and you're simply trying to feed in what the knowledge of what you have seen through your analysis. Data is always a dialogue. So it's not just you talking about your work as in your data story, but having your audience question you back, because that's what's going to have you improve your product and also make sure you're delivering to the needs of your customers. And that's exactly where data literacy steps in. Hope I answered it.
I think so. And again, please chime in if you guys do have a question. Please feel free to submit it. You should see the question box underneath your audio box. We had another question come in that says, how about data fabric or analytical virtual data warehouse as a data integration option? I said that kind of weird, so let me know if you'd like me to repeat.
Yeah, if you can repeat, because I'm not able to the question. Yeah.
No problem. So how about a data fabric or analytical virtual data warehouse as a data integration option?
Sure. So this is one of the examples I would say is rightly opted out with one of our participants. Is definitely an option which more creates, I would say we nowadays call it data mesh as well, or more of a virtualization concept across, which instead of doing so much of integration effort, we can simply point to where the data sources are through uses of these tools. I think there's Denodo, and there are one of the Red Hat also provide data virtualization platform. Nowadays they call it data mesh too, if you are referring to that. So to me, it definitely work as long as, especially it work in those, I have seen in those agency or those organizations where you have so many different sources and you cannot control the changes on the parent systems at all. Right? And those changes may happen much faster than the rate of our downstream data repositories or these integrated cloud repositories, as you referred to, analytical virtual warehouse, right? So from that perspective, the data mesh or the virtual integration concept really work well, because you can simply point people and develop a nice, I would say it's called a layer, semantic layer or the data catalog in the system, but just point to the original data where it is and allow how it can swingly join. It does work in those cases, but again, situations where you really require real time or in large AI ML implementations, then we may face, because the processing speed and all of that is driven on the original source systems where you're pointing it at or where that virtual platform is pointing at, and does create certain bottlenecks. But it again depends on the business needs. As I said, it works well for sure in the areas where we cannot control the changes at the source.
Excellent. Thank you for submitting that. All right, we had another question come in. How do we know a data lake is converted into a data swamp?
Yeah. I wish we stop it before getting there. I would say more how do we check when it became a data swamp. So to me, it is the amount of speed or the amount of time our analysts or our power users or even in certain cases business users require to process the data to do basic data exploration. If the regular data exploration, which was easier in the warehousing and data mart and OLAP world, if that has at the time to do that work or the effort which requires to do that work keep increasing in case of data lake, to me, that's the time which we can see that we have not structured it well, or we have not put the governance requirements on place from day one. So I would say that will be the primary metric for me.
And to add to what Ankit just said, as always, start small, and it's an iteration, right? You just keep adding to it. That way you have a control of what you're doing before it turns into a data swamp.
Great answer. All right, I'll go ahead and just give a couple more seconds just in case if anybody has a question that you guys want to submit. I will look and see. All right, I think that might be it for our Q&A, but I just want to come back on and just say big thank you to Divya and Ankit for leading this webinar. We really appreciate it. Thank you to our audience for chiming in and joining us today. And just a final reminder, we do have our contact us information on this slide. So if you have any questions or follow-up, please don't hesitate to email us. And we will be returning on September 9th for part 2 of this webinar. I will be sure to email everybody who's registered today with a registration link. And once this webinar is up and posted, I'll email you guys as well so you can go back and review and then submit any additional questions you have. But again, big thank you to both Divya and Ankit. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.